Πρώτα απ' όλα, το αρχαίο δράμα είναι, εκτός βέβαια από τα μνημεία και την λαϊκή παράδοση, είναι το σημαντικότερο στοιχείο της πολιτιστικής κληρονομιάς της χώρας μας. Έτσι λοιπόν, επειδή είναι σαφές ότι μπορούμε να το αξιοποιήσουμε, όχι μόνο τουριστικά, αλλά και αναπτυξιακά, έχουμε επιλέξει, έτσι όπως είπε και ο ιδιοκτήτης μας, ο Μιχάλης Κακογιάννης, να δώσουμε την ευκαιρία σε όλο τον κόσμο, σε όλους τους καλλιτέχνες δημιουργούς, να παρουσιάσουν τη δουλειά τους, γιατί ακριβώς επειδή το αρχαίο δράμα είναι προσβάσιμο σε όλους και μπορούν όλοι να το εξελίξουν, να το προσεγγίσουν, να το ερμηνεύσουν, πάντοτε σταθερά, χρησιμοποιώντας τα διαχρονικά ζητήματα τα οποία θέτει. Έτσι λοιπόν βρίσκουμε πάρα πολύ ενδιαφέρον το να βλέπουμε και από τις άλλες χώρες πώς προσεγγίζεται με βάση τις προσλαμβάνουσες που ο κάθε λαός έχει και τα σύγχρονα προβλήματά του, πώς προσεγγίζεται το αρχαίο δράμα. Για μας είναι πάρα πολύ σημαντικό, επίσης, το γεγονός ότι η θεατρική ομάδα Aquila που θα παρουσιάσει το έργο της στο Ίδρυμα Μιχάλης Κακογιάννης έχει, πέρα από το αξιόλογο καλλιτεχνικό έργο, πάρα πολύ σοβαρές θεωρητικές βάσεις. Ο κύριος Meineck είναι καθηγητής στο Πανεπιστήμιο της Νέας Υόρκης, στο New York University, και έχει αφιερώσει πάρα πολύ χρόνο στη μελέτη και προσέγγιση, στην έρευνα και τον πειραματισμό πάνω στα αρχαία κείμενα. Έτσι λοιπόν, περιμένουμε με μεγάλη υπομονησία να δούμε το καλλιτεχνικό τους αποτέλεσμα. Έχουμε δει πολλά δείγματα και αρκετό υλικό από τις παραστάσεις τους και κατά το παρελθόν και πιστεύουμε ότι θα είναι μια εξαιρετική ευκαιρία σε ένα χώρο όπως είναι το θέατρό μας, που έχει πάρα πολύ καλή τεχνική υποδομή, αλλά επίσης έχει και τις συνθήκες σε κλειστή συνθήκη βέβαια, του αρχαίου θεάτρου, αμφιθεατρικό και με πάρα πολύ καλή οπτική από οποιαδήποτε μεριά, να δούμε μια παράσταση αρχαίου δράματος με πάρα πολύ σύγχρονα τεχνικά μέσα, αλλά και με πάρα πολύ σεβασμό στα βασικά στοιχεία τα οποία αυτό πραγματεύεται. Θα δώσω το λόγο στον κύριο Meineck, ο οποίος είναι ο βαθύς γνώστης της συγκεκριμένης παράστασης, και σας ευχαριστώ πολύ.
Hello everybody. Is it okay if I speak in English? I say, it's not Kalimera, it's Kalispera, right? I read ancient Greek, which means that I get very confused when I speak Greek because we pronounce it all differently. So I'm trying. My ambition is to learn Greek. I have to come here for 6 months, I think, to do it. So excuse me for not speaking in Greek. But we're really happy to be here, particularly at the Kakianis Foundation, because I met Michael Kakianis years ago when I was a young, arrogant director at a workshop in Chicago. And I was doing a workshop, and then he was doing a workshop, and I was doing a workshop on the Greek chorus. And halfway through my workshop, he got up and he pushed me out of the way, and he said, "You're doing this wrong." And he took over my workshop, and he did an amazing work. So I was like 25. So when he did his workshop, I thought I should interrupt his workshop, right? So I did. And he stopped and he looked at me and he with great fury, actually, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? But actually, afterwards, he said, come and have a drink with me. And I had this wonderful half an hour with this amazing director who had been a hero of mine as a kid. So it's so nice now to come and play at his theatre, because I loved his films and his directing, and you know, for me growing up in England and being interested in Greek culture, he was a great hero. So it's wonderful to come here. I only wish he was still alive to see our work, but we're proud to be here. This project, Heracles, if we were logical about this project, we would never have come. Everybody in America said to me, "You're going to Greece, are you crazy? You're taking your children. It's terrible over there, and there's disaster and a crisis." And yeah, I have lots of Greek friends, and the more people said to me, "Why are you going?" the more we wanted to come. We've been coming to Greece now every year for the last 3 or 4 years, and we bring our artists from London and New York to Nafplion to rehearse. And we come here because Greece is, for me, an incredibly creative country. For all, you know, sometimes Greek is chaotic, right? I mean, chaos is a Greek word, but it's a beautiful kind of chaos. And I have such amazing ideas here. And I remember when we were driving, a couple of years ago, we were driving from Athens in the Argolid to Nafplion, and it was sunset, and my 5-year-old daughter said, "Daddy, this is the land of dreams." And she's right. You know, there's something just for an artist, that's very special about Greece, in all its positives and all its negatives. So, so the last few years we've been coming and creating shows, and we finally said, and we've been performing at the Festival of the Aegean on Syros, but we've never performed in Athens. And Aquila now is a very well-known company in America. Has a large 60-city tour circuit. We perform in New York, we performed at the White House twice, everywhere. And we started 20 years ago doing ancient Greek plays. Aristophanes, Aeschylus, Sophocles. This is what I love. And then we started to do Shakespeare, but we always would do Shakespeare and ancient drama, but never in Athens. So this project Heracles came about because we received a large grant from the National Endowment for Humanities, which is a government organization in America that funds academic projects. They've never given money to the theatre before. They're very conservative. And we persuaded them to give us nearly $1 million for a project where we would take readings from Greek literature, ancient Greek literature, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Homer, around to communities that have no theatre, rural and urban and inner city communities, and perform in public libraries, bookstores, and a big part of the project was aimed at veterans. As you know, America has been fighting 2 wars, and the cost of these wars have been terrible for everybody. And they were lunatic wars. Most Americans know that. They're fought by America's poor and America's ethnicities. They're fought by, many of them are not even citizens. And these men and women now come home with terrible physical and mental injuries. And what we're seeing now is more than 2.5 million American men and women have served in Iraq or Afghanistan and are coming home. And there's a lot of problems. Suicide rates, crime, psychological problems. And nobody is addressing this issue. For me, this project's important because Americans are too divorced from the people they send to war. It's too easy for them to allow their politicians to send their country to war because they don't have to deal with the ramifications of war. But when you sit and you listen to a combat veteran tell you about war, and I've never met a combat veteran who is pro-war. They hate war. When you sit and listen to them talk, you start to think about the responsibility you have when you vote for somebody who goes to war. And what's interesting, you know this, ancient drama was theatre written by combat veterans, performed by combat veterans, for combat veterans, because every ancient Athenian had to fight, whether they liked it or not. And the portrayal of warriors in ancient drama is very truthful. They are broken, they are deranged, they are angry, they're taken away from their families, they're struggling. And what we found is that real combat veterans, they listen to these stories that they've never ever heard before. And after the readings, they stand up and they say, I served in Vietnam, I was a helicopter gunner. This guy, Ajax, yes, that's me. I can't believe somebody wrote a play about me. I wanted to kill my officers. I wanted to kill myself. I've never said this before to anybody, but now I've watched this play, I feel like I can speak. So we've been doing this all over America. Thousands of veterans, their families, their children, and Americans, and not just the soldiers, but their wives, their families. It's remarkable how this ancient drama is incredibly powerful and speaks very, very directly to Americans. So this is very interesting. I teach classics at New York University, and I'm also a theatre director. So for me, this has been an incredible program. So this project, Heracles, grew out of this program. One of the scenes that we do is the messenger speech from Heracles, which is a very, if you know it, it's a terrible messenger speech. Heracles comes home from his labours, from his service. While his family are in Thebes, they're under threat from a Tyrannos, who is not a completely evil character, right? The Tyrannos, there's been a civil war. They've overthrown the aristocracy. Okay, you know, it's a tragedy. Everyone's got right on their side. He has to kill Heracles' family and children. So they're condemned to death. And right at the last moment, Heracles turns up, like the hero, to save them. But of course, you know, Hera sends madness, and he, you know, kills Lycus the tyrant, but then he can't stop killing, and he, you know, tragically kills his family. If I have time, I want to tell a small story of why this play responded to me. I used to be, I grew up in England, and I was a Marine, a commando, when I was a kid, before I went to university. I never saw combat, thankfully. But now I live in New York, just outside of New York, in a small town. And in America, all the firefighters and emergency paramedics are volunteers. So I'm a volunteer paramedic, right? It's my midlife crisis. Okay. You understand? You know, I flash a light on my car and I go rescue people. And, you know, it's normally routine stuff, car accidents, heart attacks, that kind of thing. So one day, I have a call, Saturday night. My wife says to me, you can't do any more calls, you're out all last night. But this call came in that some children were hurt. So she said, you have to go. So I went, and we went in our ambulances to a house, and I rushed in, and there was a policeman, completely white, like freaked out, and two children, and on the floor, like dying fish, right? And blood everywhere. And what happened is that their aunt, who was their babysitter, had flipped and taken two knives and just stabbed them each about 45 times to kill them. And I remember running into this scene and having that moment that I felt like I stood there for 10 minutes, right? But really it was 1 second. And it was the most horrific thing I've ever seen, because it was children, and it was beyond evil. It was just this, I don't know, the kids survived, right? I mean, we got the kids, we got them, and thank goodness they survived physically. But the next day I remembered Euripides' Heracles, and I remembered this speech. And I read it again. I said, now I understand this play. This is not art, this is not literature, this is real. Right? Euripides knew about this kind of insanity. And so I think part of my catharsis was to do this play. And I felt that it would speak to the veterans. And one of the most amazing moments when we were developing this play was we were invited to the White House to perform for the President. And I asked veterans to perform. one of whom is here with us today, a Vietnam veteran who's in the show. And I asked a veteran from Afghanistan, who had been a ranger in the front lines, doing a lot of killing, sending people to Guantanamo Bay, very not ready to speak about his experiences. But he would do the messenger speech. And he did it at the White House, and with such, he really had something to say to the generals and the Pentagon and the President. It was the most amazing piece of theatre I've ever seen because it was so real and so visceral. And this is the power of this ancient drama. It speaks to people very directly. So we come to this production of Heracles. We were doing the whole show, and we did a first production in Los Angeles, and now we're bringing it here. And then next year we will do the show in New York, and we're going to be doing it on a huge rooftop of a factory in Brooklyn overlooking the city, New York City, as a big epic production. Because for me, Greek drama needs to be epic. So this project has a lot of passion, and it will be very interesting for us to see an American company performing this work, to bringing it home to Athens and performing it to a Greek audience, and to see what their responses are to some of the things that we found in this production that speaks to us very politically. Maybe I should shut up for a bit. Shall I talk about the masks, or? Yeah? Okay. Other aspect of the production. Another aspect of the production is the masks, which is part of my work. For years, I've been studying ancient tragic masks, and always dissatisfied when I saw masks in production. Boring and like mime. I just thought, I can't reconcile these incredibly detailed plays with the mask. So I did a lot of work with the mask, and I actually work with a lot of neuroscientists and cognitive psychologists, understanding the way the brain processes the face and the body in an area called embodied cognition. Because like, why would you wear a mask? Why invent drama based out of dancing and singing and then put a mask? I don't know if any of you are singers or dancers, but the last thing that you would want to put on your face is a mask, right? Because you see this. So there's something important with the mask. And I did a lot of work understanding how the brain processes the mask, and you know, cutting edge psychology now and neuroscience is telling us that we don't look at the face as much as we think. We look at the body and we read the body. And you know, our mirror neurons in our brain, and we know so little about this because it's a whole new frontier, but they work on a basis of empathy. And it struck me that in wearing a mask, what happens when you look at the masks on the 5th century vases, which is the evidence that we have, very naturalistic, very realistic, and they're quite ambiguous. So we work with a mask maker on developing masks, and not necessarily reconstructions of ancient masks, but what would a contemporary mask look like? And my theory is that the ancient mask, and I mean the 5th century mask, was more expressive than the human face, because your cognitive process would see the expressions on that mask that you see. So if you don't like Brad Pitt playing Achilles, you're not going to like that movie Troy, right? If you put Brad Pitt in a mask, then that's your face that you see, and that's your relationship. So you have a very powerful one-to-one relationship with that mask. And that's something that we've tried to capture in this production. And it's dangerous because masks are very difficult. We have no real tradition of masks in Western theatre. We have commedia dell'arte, which is a very different tradition. So we're trying to reconnect with something. But I do think that it makes the body and movement really important. And I was thinking about the ancient audience. And you know, every ancient Greek danced, right? They all danced. And probably every single Athenian male citizen probably performed at the Dionysia in the chorus at least once, right? Either in a tragedy or a dithyramb. So, a famous neurological study done 4 years ago in London took ballet dancers and capoeira dancers. Capoeira is a Portuguese martial arts dance. Right? They put them in an fMRI machine that reads the brain. And when the ballet dancers watch ballet, the area of the motor cortex that controls movement fired as if they were moving, right? So when they watch ballet, it's like they were moving. When they watch capoeira, that didn't happen. So if you know the dance form you're watching, those of you who are dancers know this. My wife's a dancer. She goes to watch the dancer, she's twitching. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, what? I'm like, you're twitching. No, I'm not. Because she's actually, her brain is moving. And I think about the choruses of ancient drama, who were all dancers. When they watched these masked choruses, it was a whole level of emotional bodily engagement that was really powerful. So we're trying to kind of capture that. In understanding, spending my life learning about ancient drama, it sort of freed me from being too reverent with drama, because that's great, that was then, but this is now. So the choruses for me are very important. But I don't come from a tradition of choral dance. I wanted our choruses in Heracles to really communicate. So we used film, and we went around the country and we filmed 10 veterans from World War II to Afghanistan. And I asked them questions based on the choruses in Heracles, and talked about the play, and we filmed them. And the choruses that you'll see are edited films of these veterans just talking about their experiences. And we weave this into the play. And this is, you know, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, you'll be the judge. But we're trying to do a new kind of chorus that is really direct and now and emotional. And it is remarkable, for example, watching the play and hearing about how Heracles has slaughtered his children, and then hearing these veterans tell you about them witnessing children being killed. I mean, it's tragedy. And for me, it opens the play up to that level of cognitive engagement. Because I think we have to feel tragedy. We have to feel it. We can do a beautiful play that you all applaud and say the aesthetics are beautiful, that's very nice, but maybe you won't feel anything. It's much more dangerous to try and make you feel. Aristotle said pity and fear, right? Catharsis comes out of pity and fear. So that's what we've tried to do with our experiences in this production.
Να ευχαριστήσω τον άνθρωπο, επειδή είναι σημαντικό να μας αγαπάνε οι ξένοι δημιουργοί, αλλά είναι ακόμα πιο σημαντικό να αντιμετωπίζουν την κληρονομιά μας σαν κάτι ζωντανό. Ο τρόπος που το βλέπει αποδεικνύει ότι είναι ζωντανή η κληρονομιά και αυτό μας κάνει να χαιρόμαστε ιδιαίτερα.
Ο κύριος Κορνήλιος Διαμαντόπουλος, είναι από το περιοδικό.
You're welcome, and I wish I could answer you in Greek, but you know, Greece is a very important country, and there can be no Europe without Greece. You know that, right? You know this. I'm English, and I remember coming to in 1990. I came to a festival at Delphi, and there was every country of Europe did a Greek play. Every country in Europe thought that Greek drama was theirs, even the Greeks, right? So whenever you think about this idea of Hellenism, it's a shared thing that Europe has. Europe is a Greek word. I wish you could copyright an idea, right, and make money from it. But I know this, that Europe has hung together for 60 years without fighting a war. Now we have football matches. Is a remarkable thing. It's not all about money, right? An idea is what's important, and the idea of what Greece is. Greece for me is a crossroads. It's very important. So as artists, I think that we have to lead the way a little bit with this, which is why we really wanted to come. Because the media are going crazy. It's an easy story for them, right? And a lot of market forces drive the media, but the artists need to go and collaborate. And we hope that we can future collaborate with Stylo-Giannis Foundation and bring them to New York as well. So, you know, this is a very, very creative place, and it's not just ancient Greece, it's Greece now. I came to the Onassis Athens dialogues, and one of your colleagues took me around to see theatre. This is when I came to Stylo-Giannis to the Fringe Festival. And I was amazed how much theatre was here, and the quality of it, and how avant-garde it was. This, you know, it was remarkable. And I see theatre all over the world, so there's something excellent here that's really important. So in some small way, I hope by coming, we can be showing our support. This is terrible times for everybody, right? But maybe Greece gets it so bad because Greece does mean so much to everybody. It certainly does to many people in America, I think. So